Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Empire Builders MasterCast. Honoree, Quarter, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. And for those that haven't watched this before, I'm Lucas. I help nonfiction authors create courses from their books. I'm also a fiction and nonfiction author. Honoree, what is it that you do?
On Tuesdays or every day?
Every day.
Every day I'm Honoree Quarter, and I help professionals and entrepreneurs to write, publish, market, and monetize their books. And together we co-founded the Empire Builders Masterclass, empirebuildersmasterclass.com, which is a one-stop shop for professionals and entrepreneurs who want to develop courses, write books, and create other income streams from their books.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I write nonfiction and maybe a little fiction.
There we go.
But we're not talking about it quite yet.
Not talking about it yet.
We're not talking about it.
Next
What
spring.
are we talking about?
That was good. You move right on.
Did you like that? Did you like that? Align
Quickly
and
move on.
redirect. We're not going
That's
to talk
right.
about that, but what are we going to talk about? It's like your children. It's like, I know you want ice cream, but let's have tacos first.
Look, salad.
Right. No, that never does it.
It's good for you. It's good for you. Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. We got Michael Woodruff on.
Yeah. Hi, Michael.
Finally, some nonfiction from Honoree.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
We've been waiting all this time for you to
Yes.
finally put a nonfiction book out.
Yeah. All this
That's
time.
fun.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
today we're going to talk about writers' conferences and how
Oh, yeah.
to, like, why you should do them, how you should treat them, like, how do you interact with people at conferences, especially if you're an introvert. Because, like, I mean, at least on every writer, nonfiction or fiction conference I've ever been to, if you're in like those Facebook groups, there's a huge wave right before the conference of people saying, hey, I'm not the extrovert in the room, so how do I navigate this space?
Right.
And then, what do you consider success? I mean, what makes for a successful event for you as an attendee versus someone that's hosting, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll dig into all those things. But before we do,
okay, yes.
what have you been reading?
What have I been reading? I have been reading kind of how-to manuals on things. Like
how to change a lawnmower blade, how to change the filter in the refrigerator.
So I wasn't going to say not reading for pleasure, but not unpleasurable. So I have a book I'm reading called Tim and Tom, and it's about Tim Reed, the actor Tim Reed, and his comedy partner Tom. And that's interesting because we are acquainted with one of the parties, the party of the first part. So I got a copy of the book because I thought it would be fun to read that. And if you don't know who Tim Reed is, anyone, do you know who Tim Reed is?
I know of Tim Reed. Never met Tim Reed.
Tim Reed Sr. was Venus Flytrap on one of the best shows of all time, WKRP in Cincinnati. So that's who I'm reading a book about, is Tim Reed Sr.
I apologize. I do know Tim. I met him at the crawfish boil.
Yes. So you met his son, Tim Reed, the second.
Yes. Junior.
Yes.
Not senior. I never met senior. I know of him.
Right. I have not yet met senior either.
Now he's in my backyard. Apparently he lives in Richmond. He
does. Yes. Yeah. Yes. He's not far. So I have been reading a little of that. I have a Lisa Unger novel legitimately on the table next to the couch, but I've been doing some work stuff that I'll talk about maybe 6 months hence. So make a note. I've been doing some experimenting. And so when I never really talk about things while I'm doing them. I talk about them in the rearview mirror so I can actually talk from a place of experience, so that I can criticize people who do things like 1 time or 3 times and then they do a course on it. So
not that I've ever had anyone bring me those before.
Not that I've ever had anyone bring me those.
I'm like, how many times have you taught this? I always ask that question. They're like, oh, I've
Uh-huh.
never taught it. I'm like, okay, how many times have you done this?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I'm a book marketing expert. How many books do you have? 1. How long has it been out? 3 minutes. Okay, perfect. So You're the absolute perfect person to be a book marketing expert. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that stuff right now. So I've been reading books about what I'm working on in that area and this Tim and Tom book. And so I have a fiction book on the table beside the couch, but every spare minute I've been working because I love being an entrepreneur. I have to say that, and I don't think any of these folks watch, but I am very close to lots of people who have traditional employment. They just count the days for when they can stop working. And so this is how many years I have left, or this is how much time I have left, or whatever. And I don't have an end date. I don't have an expiration date on what I'm doing. I just every day I'm learning something and putting something new in practice and trying something new and outlining new books to write. And that would be a great idea for a series. We came up with a fiction series for Ken to write yesterday. He was like, what if I die? Because I was like, you can never die because we're working together, and working together was amazing. He's like, what if I die? It was on the EBM virtual.
That's a great
copy.
title, by the way.
What?
What if I die?
What if I die? No, that wasn't the book. The book was, what if he was the ghostwriter? It's like, then he would really be a ghostwriter. And I was like, that would be a really funny. It's like, we do have a ghostwriter, but you could never talk to them. He will just write your book and it will just show up. So anyway, I don't have an end date to when I want to stop working.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope I don't have to stop working.
Right. Like, I'm exhausted, but in a great way.
Right.
I woke up at 3:45 this morning and I was like, can I get up now and start working on my stuff? Because I'm super excited about it.
Now, you and I are different creatures. I would have been like, why am I waking up right now? I need to be sleeping for at least 2 more hours.
Well, but you're crazy. You go to bed a lot later than I do.
That's true. That's true.
Yes. And I mean that in the most respectful way.
Well, I'm agreeing with the I'm crazy part.
I mean that in the most respectful way that you're crazy.
Yeah, I tell myself that at least 3 times a day, especially at night when I'm working, and I'm like, why am I doing this?
I must be crazy. But it's so fun. It's so fun to figure something out, and it's almost like a piece locks into place, right? Yeah. It makes that sound. It's like, oh, that's cool. Let me dive more into that. So that's what I'm excited about right now. Awesome. That's what I'm reading. What are you reading? What are you reading since you went to a conference? I saw, didn't you bring back only 8 books?
I did. I was hard.
That was hard. You didn't take my suggestion? Remember
no, I didn't.
My pre-conference suggestion?
Yeah, we can discuss that because that is an important part if you're a participating author and you're not just attending. Like if you're doing a book signing or sales or vending, especially if you're vending like for days, that would have been a whole different thing. My plan worked. It was actually kind of ideal for the circumstances. It would have not been a good plan had I had a table there for 2-3 days.
Why?
I wouldn't have had enough books. So, yeah, I would have needed a larger shipment of books.
Right.
And that would have changed everything. So,
yeah.
Did
you vend?
I only vended for 2 hours.
I just want to go with a New York accent. But did you vend?
But did you vend?
But did you vend?
I vended for 2 hours. It was they have like we could talk about it, I guess, a little bit, but like they have like an author signing opportunity.
Okay.
And so you need to bring books to sign.
Yeah.
And people are like, I want your book. And you're like, really? And they're like, yes, that's why I asked for it. hand the book over. Yes. And then there were some book swaps as well. So but yeah, so I did 2 hours of vending, which isn't like I didn't sign up for like the exhibition hall to be like a full-time vendor.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the plane there, I read a really interesting novella titled Wings of Sorrow. And it's from Yolanda Svetsos, who is an amazing dark fiction author from Australia.
I don't know how to spell.
Yeah.
Bless you.
It's SFETSOS. Svetsos.
Oh. Yep. Bless you.
I know. Thank you. Excuse me. And she wrote a really I'm trying not to give any spoilers.
Okay.
spooky house on a cliff overlooking the ocean. There, can never leave. Figure out your family isn't what you thought it was, and you
Okay.
have to basically kill your husband because it's part of your it's part of your legacy, and you can't. It's
Well,
unavoidable.
some days that's easier than others, but no.
Yeah. Well, you and Byron are opposite sleep schedules, so it's a little easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been reading Shadow of the Hidden
Oh,
from a friend of mine, Kev Harrison, who's
okay.
a proud
Shadow of the
hidden Shadow of the
Hidden.
Hidden.
Ooh.
And you would or he classifies it. I interviewed him for my fiction podcast recently. He classifies it as adventure horror. And it really is kind of like a mix of The Mummy and Indiana Jones with a little bit of a darker twist.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to read, actually. And having been to that area of the world, because the book bounces between the countries of Turkey, Egypt, and Tunisia.
Okay.
It was really cool to read a book about places I've been that I don't usually get to read about, and you're kind of seeing the culture again for the first time in X number of years. And
Interesting.
my only point of advice to anyone who's interested in reading Kev Harrison's book is don't read it while you're hungry, because Kev is a bit of a foodie and there's tons of food in this book. And the whole time I was reading it, I was like, dude, when do I get to eat? Because this sounds amazing.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah. So those were my two
fiction.
Those are my two fiction reads. Nonfiction, I've mainly been sticking to newsletters and Substack lately for nonfiction.
Okay. Any to recommend?
Well, I hate to call JT Ellison's newsletter nonfiction, but it's nonfiction about fiction.
It is. She's doing, she has a wonderful newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has something called the JT's 22 Steps, which is her journey to writing fiction. So if you want to write fiction, follow along.
Yeah.
As she's still in the middle of the steps. I think we're up to step 7.
Right.
I've been saving them. They're like,
I'm catching up, so I'm not.
They're like a dessert that I
Yeah.
savor. I look forward to diving into those and seeing that journey. So, okay. All right. So JT, I already follow her.
Yep. So I've been following hers, and then S.E. Reed is she has a publication called Tail Stacks, which is probably her most recognizable Substack publication. Cool. She has multiple publications, but she's a fiction writer who's very successful on Substack writing fiction. And S.E. and I have known each other since we both got on Substack right around the same time.
S.C. or S.E.?
S.E.
S.E. That's what I wrote down. Okay. And then I was going to ask you something and then I lost it.
Okay. So if you're a fiction writer and you're thinking about writing anything related to fiction on Substack, S.E. Reed is a phenomenal resource because she's really
EED.
No, I think it's REID.
Okay. And then Michael's asking us to spell. And so JT Ellison, JT, and then ELLISON.
Right.
Yep. I highly recommend, Michael, that you subscribe to her 22 Steps. It's a paid, but it's very reasonable for the annual subscription. Monthly or annually, it's very reasonable investment, and you're learning from someone who is working on novels like 35, 33, 34, 35, something like that. She writes different series, standalone thrillers, series, just so good.
And I love that she's not directly in my genre, even though I write thriller as one of the types of books I write. I don't write domestic noir, and she does.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to see the perspective of a traditionally published author writing in a different genre, but every word she says resonates with me.
Yeah.
And so it's not just like platitudes. She gives a lot of very good advice. S.E. Reed is S.E. Reed, REID.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And Tailbones is her publication.
Tailbones. Okay.
That's her other one. That's her main.
We have Tailbones and Tail Stacks.
Tail Stacks. That's right.
22 Steps. Steps like taking a step. STEP. 22 steps. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. I'll put those in the
Groovy.
show notes when we're done later.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you want to talk about conferences?
Yeah. So
Author conferences?
yeah. And so
specifically?
I would like to point out that there's 2 or 3 sides to this world. There are the people that host conferences, and those could be like large organizations like companies or associations or even individual businesses, small businesses that want to host a conference in their discipline or in their genre, depending on if they're writers or not. And so I'm involved with all these different conferences at these different types of events. And in some, I'm actually there as an author / vendor. Others, I'm there as a member of an association or a member of a group. And in some situations, I'm there just as a fan. Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to kind of understand what the goal of this event is for you and your writer business. So if you're going to a conference, every one of them is an investment, a time and financial investment. And I have to justify it. It has to fit the, why am I going to this event? Why is this a good investment in my work?
Yep.
Otherwise, it's purely entertainment / fun / hobby / whatever. Right. But I'm not going to leave it with an expectation that it improves my ability to be a successful author or marketer or engineer or whatever, right? Whatever professional conference you're going to.
Right.
So I think you just like out on the outset, you kind of have to think, why should I go to a conference? Like a particular conference, like what is it going to do for me up here and for me in my work? And I also think you should think, what can I give people at a conference? How can I make it fruitful for them that I'm there? Because if we go with just thinking about ourselves, we fall short of actually the meeting the success part.
So true. So true.
Yeah. So anyways, I just got back from StokerCon, which is obviously Stoker is in Bram Stoker. It's hosted by the Horror Writers Association. And by all accounts, it is like a lot of other professional association events. It just happens to be a ton of horror writers, and some are traditionally published. A lot are traditionally published. Some are self-published. And then there's people that are kind of on the fringes of those two worlds as far as like application. You have everything from novel writers to short story collection writers to comic book writers.
Oh.
Yeah, there's like a really broad world. So I think one of the things I observed.
Screenwriters? Screenwriters went. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, a couple of the panels that were, I mean, all the panels were full, but a couple of the panels that I heard a lot of people speaking about involved, how do I get my book into film? We had a director there who directed a Stephen King adaptation. So there was a lot of, how do I get an appreciation for that side of the industry and what does that opportunity look like? So I guess that kind of introduces us.
StokerCon isn't in the same place every year, is it?
No, it's actually changed every year, which is probably a great thing because it gives different people different opportunities year to year. Some people just can't afford to fly all the way to San Diego from the East Coast or whatever. And
where is it next year?
Next year, it's in Stamford, Connecticut, which is just north of New York City.
It is.
Yep.
Connecticut.
That's right.
For the bridge and tunnel people.
That's right. It's close to upstate, meaning it's just outside of Yonkers. Like anything north of Yonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's where it's at next year. I would like to point out that is a different type of event than, say, when you and I went to 20 books last year. Right. Which is the Author Nation this year. And although they are both targeting the writing industry and the industries that support writers, like publishers and software companies and all these things, they have a very they have a different purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So Michael asked a question a few minutes ago, which is, where do you find Writers Conference, or how do you find them? You can, you'll have to answer that. You just Google writers conferences and you go and look in writers groups on Facebook.
Yeah.
I can talk about my first writers conference, which changed my life completely.
Are you answering the how did you find it question, or because I've got one more thing to add to that if you're done with that answer?
I will answer that as well, but go ahead,
Okay.
please.
I was just gonna say, like, keep your eyes peeled on social media for where the other people in your industry are gathering.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yes.
if people, like, almost every conference I've attended, it's because I've seen that the right people that I want to be around and the people I want to learn from are going to these
Yeah.
events.
Yep.
And the readers are going to those events as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Before I run my mouth, who did you fangirl over the most? Was there one particular author that was there that you were like, oh my gosh?
Yeah, it was actually kind of funny. Jonathan Mayberry has been at a lot of
Oh, I know him. Yeah.
he's been at a lot of the conferences I go to, and he never, ever, ever fails to provide a tremendous amount of benefit to attendees. Like,
Mhm.
he's just, I mean, he's been all over the industry, whether just as a writer or
Wow.
someone who's gone in and out of traditional publishing. He's an editor, a managing editor for a magazine. He's done movie adaptations.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done so much, and he's been around a while, and he knows what he's talking about. And he does it in a way that is very easy to enjoy. Right? He doesn't come across as pretentious or condescending or anything. It's almost like Uncle John's like
Right.
gonna sit you down and
Someone,
talk to you.
yeah, that's awesome. Did you talk to him?
No, well, briefly, but nothing substantive. I was more like making sure I was attending the panels he was speaking on.
Yeah.
The other person was Ronald Malfi, who
I
I've never
remember him.
met. And really, really short story. When my local Barnes and Noble picked up my book and put it on the shelf, I was sitting next to Ronald Malfi, and because of our last
Oh,
names. And I
yeah.
made a post and said, how cool is this? I'm one shelf down from Stephen King, and I'm directly next to Ronald Malfi. And he's a pretty well-known horror writer.
That's awesome.
And I'm washing my hands, and I look over, and Ronald Malfi's standing next to me. And I said, hey. And I told him about this short story. And he's like, dude, that's awesome. Turns out we lived 3 miles from each other in Maryland for a while.
Wow.
And we chatted for about 5-10 minutes about previous employment that we've both had. And he's like, let me buy you a beer.
Wow.
And so I got to have a beer with Ronald Malfi, and then I got to buy him one the next day. And so that was really cool.
Nice. Someday he's going to be like, I met Lucas Marino in the men's room, which could mean something completely different. But
I would welcome that story.
Perfect.
Yeah. So.
Absolutely perfect.
How about you?
So I heard about my first writers conference on a podcast. So to answer the question, how do you hear about writers conferences? Listen to writers podcasts, because they will often talk about Thriller Fest or StokerCon, or what's the other scary one you went to?
Oh my gosh. I went to AuthorCon, which
not that one. No, you went to a scary one like in Pennsylvania or something.
Oh, that was StokerCon last year.
Oh, it was StokerCon last year.
Yeah.
I feel like it hasn't been a year, but I guess it has. All right. Yeah. So I'm going to BoucherCon in August, which JT told me about. I'm going to Killer Nashville also in August.
And those two are predominantly thriller genre?
So yes, I think so. Mystery
and
thriller.
And like crime.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So so Michael, I would there's too many. I would say go look on your podcatcher and just put in writer podcasts, because there's the writer files, and there's the suspense is killing me, and like you can just find them.
Talking Scared.
Yeah, the one that I was listening to back in the day is no longer around, the self-publishing podcast, and those guys ended up, Johnny and Dave had a podcast, and they had a writers conference, and so their first writers conference was my first writers conference. It was called the Colonist Summit, and there were 24 of us. And I'm still friends with some of those folks to this day. We were all relatively new to knowing each other. So this was in 2011, I think 2011 or 2012. I want to say it was 2011. I want to say it was like December of 2011. I had heard about it, and I said to my husband, it's in Austin and there's a writers conference. I don't know any other writers. I had been publishing since 2004.
Wow.
And I didn't know any other. I thought everybody else that was a writer was a real writer, like a cool writer. And I was the lone loser out there self-publishing. Like legitimately, I had published all of the single mom books by that point, and other books, mini books and Tall Order, The Successful Single Mom, all of that. But I was out there kind of just doing my thing. But I thought, well, I'm not a real writer because I've never went to college and take a writing class. But I just wanted to go to this writers conference and meet other people that were writing, that were indie publishing. I just thought it was so cool. And so Kevin Tomlinson, my first editor, one of the best editors I've ever worked with, she's come out of retirement. So we're going to do some work together, like just some fantastic people I met at that conference that are still going to conferences and still writing. And some people are having massive success that were newbies back then, which is really cool.
Right.
So I listened to the Writer Files. I listened to any podcast, and this is how I find writers podcasts. I go and search for my favorite author to see if they've done any interviews. And then I binge listen to all of the interviews that they're on. Let me just look really quick because we had a question. So
while you look, I wanted to tell Michael, you really need to think about the type of, like, the focus of this of the show. Like I'm in particular, I have a couple that are like writer, like not genre specific.
Right.
And then I'm into like niched podcasts, like this Talking Scared, and Books in the Freezer, and those are great like horror podcasts.
Yes. That's awesome.
But I'm trying to remember.
Well, so I have my list here.
Okay. Storytellers Rule the World, which is for like subscribers or subscription author services. They're great. Go ahead. Sorry.
So Writers Inc., the Writer Files, as I've mentioned, Writer's Routine, which that guy's British. He's got a really cool accent. The Profitable Writer by our friend Kent Sanders. First Draft Friday. And then the Get Cozy podcast, which is what you said, specific to genre. So the cozy mysteries. But I have found a lot of really cool, I think that's it. I found a lot of podcasts just looking for authors or people I'm interested in who have been on a podcast. I'll just go put in their name and then podcast episode. Yeah. And then just listen to those podcasts. And it's helped me to discover podcasts I didn't know about, which is such a problem. Right? It's like getting my 2 Audible credits every month. It's like, you now have 8 available credits and 400 books you've never even started listening to.
Yeah.
Please shop again. We're so happy to see you. Right. So
that's all right.
I think that, and this is just my perception, I can listen to some authors and they're a master class in what to do. And if you're listening and paying attention and writing things down, they're really dropping gem after gem after gem after gem. And I've been on the treadmill at a traffic light, opening the notes app on my phone and just taking notes, going, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, that's a great idea. I need to do that. I need to blah, blah, blah. So anyway.
Yeah. So if you follow those podcasts, oftentimes the hosts of those podcasts are attending these conferences.
They are, and they're talking about them. They're sponsoring a booth. They want to talk to you. Yep. Sometimes they're hosting a conference. Go even if you're an introvert, because I'm an introvert. So the person in me who wants to connect with people is like, yay, a conference. I have these 2 conferences that I signed up for like the end of last year in August. I'm like, yay, conferences. I'm even speaking at Killer Nashville. But then as the dates get closer, I'm like, oh no, I want to go out and see people. Whose idea was that? Why did I sign up for that? What's going on?
Gotta leave my house.
Well, I'm speaking on Saturday. I have to do the same 30-minute presentation 4 times. And I got talked into it. Yeah, it's not about writing.
Are they like courses? Like you're giving a class?
Yeah, I'm doing a class
gotcha.
on something. And I'm not speaking about anything I normally speak about. Anyway, I just got the email this morning and they're like, you're speaking 4 times. So I'm giving the same presentation 4 times, 30 minutes each to 4 different groups of people that are rotating. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to drive with a car full of people for 90 minutes.
Yep.
So that's all the peopling. And then I'm going to go people for the whole day and do all the speaking. And then I'm going to drive home with all the people. And so my husband was like, so are we going to go do this thing on Saturday? And I was like, absolutely not. I will be dead.
Well, I think if you're, if you're wondering what, like, you're talking about giving a class, right?
Yeah.
Like people can, some conferences you can get paid to give a class.
Correct.
Like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
In other conferences, particularly for like associations, they might retain that money for the association.
Right.
Or sometimes there's a revenue share. But I've been to professional conferences where they gave me an opportunity to do a workshop, and they were like, this was like for engineering stuff. Me and a friend who were both independent consultants partnered up and did a workshop where we took his stuff or my stuff and led it into his stuff and say, hey, look, these two can go together. And we were able to financially profit off of that. I did learn a very valuable lesson during that con.
Do tell me.
Do not print at the conference center.
Oh, yes. That would be $9.57 per page, double-sided.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I could have bought boxes of books for the amount of money I paid for like 10 handouts, because they were bound and pretty and everything. I wanted to be professional.
That's what you get.
Yeah. I should have just walked down the street. So, I was like, I will never make that mistake again. But anyway.
So you can get asked to speak at a conference, which generally does not come early in your career, unless you're someone like Lucas, who is a doctor, and has already published 2 nonfiction books and 2 fiction books and has more in the works. So I understand you were on a panel at StokerCon. I would like you to talk about said panel.
I was, and the invitation process for that is a bit of a mystery to me.
Okay.
When you apply to attend this event, because it is for the Horror Writers Association, almost all the members who apply are members of the association. There are people that are not members of the association that apply. So I think what happens is they look at what type of member you are. And they look at your profile and say, oh, look, this person owns a small business. This person publishes and sells nonfiction and fiction. And this person has a platform, right? Because I have my podcast listed on that bio. So I guess the moral of the story there is if you're going to an event where they have access to a bio of yours and you're applying and you're interested in doing a panel or anything like that, make sure you don't keep information out of there that could be beneficial to their decision making. You may not think the podcast has anything to do with it, but it absolutely did. The other thing I think was,
which one? The suspense is killing me.
Right. Well, I listed that I'm co-founder of the Empire Builders Masterclass was listed on there.
Okay.
I also mentioned that we help nonfiction writers do all the things. So I think when they looked at my profile, they said, wow, this person kind of stands out as a unique entity. They probably went and looked up my stuff. They may have actually listened to the podcast. And then I was invited to a panel. So
what was the panel?
It was about book marketing, which kind of surprised me because I was like, are you okay. Are you sure?
Are you sure? That's funny.
And the people that were on the panel, it was an assortment of people.
You have written 400% more books than most book marketing experts. So.
Yeah, just never a book about book marketing.
That's all right. That's okay.
So, but it was interesting. I think they were looking for just a little bit of a diverse panel. And I do have a pretty healthy social media platform in that industry. And I can't vouch for this, but I think just being a nice person and having a reputation as being someone that's an
Easy to work with.
educator and easy to work with is
Yeah.
probably helpful.
You didn't send them your writer? I need vanilla scented candles and white M&Ms.
Yes. Yeah, we need salmon
I need
delivered.
Pavarotti playing
Yeah.
at the actual Pavarotti.
Yeah. That reminds me of Axl Rose, back in the late 80s, early 90s, had a reputation for that. But anyways, so being able to speak on a panel was a little intimidating in this instance, and I'm almost never intimidated by speaking on a panel.
Oh, tell me.
And I think it was because of the fact that it wasn't necessarily a panel where I thought like, oh, I'm the obvious selection for that.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
And I think you underestimate yourself.
Well, I probably realized that after the panel, to be honest.
Okay, cool. All right, good.
Yeah. I think going into it, I was like, okay, like I'm probably the least experienced of the panel members on this topic. But then I realized I'm in a totally different side of the industry than they are.
Well, and you have quite an interesting background and you have a lot of street cred that
thank you.
That you're welcome. That transfers over.
Right.
Yeah. Which is why I think in 10 years, Ronald Malfi is going to say, I remember when I met Lucas Marino. I'm just saying we're recording this. It's live, but it's also going to be recorded. It's going to be here for all time. And if there is one thing that I learned from Will and Grace when it was on originally was the Told You So dance. Do you remember the Told You So dance in the song?
No, I do like Will and Grace, but I don't remember that.
Yeah. So I'm going to wait to sing it because singing isn't my specialty, but you could Google it if you want to know what it's going to be like.
Well, if this happens, are you going to sing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to, yeah. Of course
now I'm motivated to make it happen. This has to happen. Come on, everybody. We have to do this together.
That's right. We're going to do it together. Perfect. Yeah. So how do you think about which conferences to go to and what's your position? Because I have a very strong thought process and position on going to conferences and why I go or don't go to different things now at this stage of my life and my career.
Yeah, I'm funny about this because I'm not it's an opportunity cost, right? I hate to just boil it down to being a business owner kind of mindset, but I'm one of those people that could have fun anywhere at any time with almost anyone. So I have to be really careful. I'm also a yes person. I like to do things. I don't want to miss out. FOMO is a real thing for me. I like to be involved. Yeah, I could have been a contender. So for me, it's
Michael.
Yeah, Michael's, and I'm like intentionally not talking well about myself in the chat. So so bear with me.
And guys. I can't get to the chat, so we'll address that later.
Yes, ma'am. So I don't know.
Michael.
For me, it's like, why am I going to this event? First of all, it should not just be to sell books, although that is a huge part of it, right? If the event is geared around that, like AuthorCon, you want to get a table. They sell out in 3.5 minutes. You want to be in the room selling your books because it is a huge reader event. Tons of readers go through there. So if you're looking at a way to make money off of book sales, attending conferences as a book seller, as an author selling books, is one of the ways you can easily do that. I say easily. It's a thing, right? There's a lot of work that goes into getting a table set up.
Oh my gosh. You have to have a banner and you have to have shelves for tchotchkes and you have to know how to say tchotchkes. You have to know what they are. You have to buy them. You have to transport them.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into being a conference bookseller, right?
It's almost another set of skills. There's the writing set of skills. There's the marketing. There's the publishing. And then there is the vending.
Also, I'm not probably ever going to be confused as being an introvert, right? Like most people meet me and they're like, this person's not a hard up introvert, but Honoree knows me very well. She knows I'm an ambivert. I kind of have my moments. I was in the middle of AuthorCon. I was running low. because it's a
Mm.
very social thing to be, if you really want to maximize your opportunities
You
to
got to
meet
go
as
talk
many
to
people.
people.
Yes.
Yes.
So am I going to an author event where it's all authors? Then it's a different type of networking opportunity. If
Right.
I'm going to an author event where it's authors and readers in even or close to even distribution, then you're going to have totally different types of conversations. So I look at all those conferences and go, who am I actually going to interact with at the conference? Am I
Yeah.
going to sell books or not? And is this more of a learning rather than a doing type event? All
Right.
of that goes into my equation. I can't afford to do all the learning events all year round and never do any of the book selling events. If I look at book selling in person as a key
Right.
means of bringing income into my author business. So you
Right.
need to kind of think about what type of author business you have, and if you want to be an in-person seller of your books,
Right.
right? And does
No.
this right? Some people are not, right? So and
No.
you and I have seen the video or
No.
you and I have seen the success stories of people make $50,000 a year selling books at conferences. It's kind of like, to me, the
Ah,
equivalency of being a professional speaker.
yeah. It's
You know,
just it.
yeah,
It's not for me, but it is for someone. Thank goodness. Some people
yeah,
really love it. They really love that. I can talk to how I look at conferences at different stages of someone's career if that would be helpful.
absolutely.
Yeah, so I think when you're beginning, and this is one of those hindsight is 2020 things that I wish someone
Mhm.
had told me, is because you said, "Why are you going to the conference?" And I think there are probably 3 stages that I can identify initially, and there are
Mhm.
probably more, but the 3 are you're a beginner, you're in the beginning of your career. In this case, the beginning of your writing career, but I think this is solid advice for across all um, all jobs, all career paths. So the first one is you're a beginner and you'll want to go to conferences to learn and to network, and you want to get to know the 3 levels of people. The people that are in the front of the room and they're teaching. So those are the people that are hosting the conference and the people that have been asked to speak at the conference because they're up there for a reason.
Mhm.
You'll also want to vet them to make sure they actually know what they're talking about, because sometimes it's a um all is not what it seems. Let's just say that, right? You want
Right.
to make sure that the person who is the marketing expert actually has a marketing book, right? That they actually
Right.
have some credibility, right?
Right.
Okay. Um, and you want to, in that instance, you want to at least make eye contact and just introduce yourself, put yourself on the radar of the people that are in the front of the room. Just go up and say hi, thank them for speaking. If you really want to be super awesome, send them a handwritten thank you note, a copy of your book, something like that after the fact. Then simultaneously, you want to be getting to know the people in your year group. It's very interesting if and I noticed this when I would read about celebrities or watch about celebrities, is that people get to Hollywood at the same time and they grow up together in their
Mhm.
career. And your network is your net worth. And so as someone is doing something, they also want to bring their friends along. Well, do you know anybody who's funny? Do you know anybody who could do this? Do you know anybody who could do that? So if you look at a movie like Twins, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, those guys got to Hollywood at the same time and they became friends. And so it's no
Mhm.
surprise that they did a lot of projects together. And you can see that in different industries. Hollywood is just one of the more obvious ones where people are going and starting their career. So you want to get to know other writers at your same level, because you can then do cross promotions and you can do round robins and you can do book recommendations for each other's books, and especially in the same genre, and you can be rising up together. You'll also, so then at some point you're not a beginner anymore, you're more of a mid-lister. You're someone who's in the middle of their career and still writing and still aspiring and still growing, and there are people who you have not met that are in your same kind of year group or class, as it were, and you're going to want to know the people who are in the front of the room and the people who are just coming into the room, because you want to pull people forward and be beneficial to those people. You want to know everybody, all the way around, right?
Mhm.
And so then ultimately you may be lucky enough to still be around to be an OG, right? So 10 years from now, you'll be an OG and you may be in the front of the room and you see the same people on the way down that you saw on the way up. So you want to maintain your newbie, I have a lot to learn, I'm still a nice person, eagerness, even when you have some success and some credibility.
Right.
You want to have a good reputation for being easy to work with and for being nice and for being someone who is able and willing to help people and to kind of pay it forward, because those are the same people that are recommending your work and talking about you. And it's funny because there's a famous football player and I met him at what's the bowl in Hawaii that they have every year after the Super Bowl or before the Pro Bowl, maybe?
Yeah.
He was at the Pro Bowl and I met him and I didn't have anything but $1 for him to sign. And it was for my then stepson. He was so rude. So rude. And so every time I see him on TV, I'm like, that guy. Right. Right. But I have met famous speakers in elevators and in, famous authors and other people in different places. And they're gracious and lovely and they've become friends, or we've been friendly with each other. Or we know each other in some way. And it's always good to have a reputation of being someone who's nice and who is willing to do things, because those opportunities come later. So once you have gone and you've learned, you'll probably get to a point where when you go to conferences, it's not so much about the sessions that you're attending. It's more about being in the lobby. So I'm in the lobby where the snacks are. I went to the candy bowl at 20 books like 87 times. And after a while, they were like, well, we saved the ones you like for you, which are the big, the big Tootsie Rolls, the big fat Tootsie Rolls, right?
And the Kit Kats. I want the Kit Kats.
And the Kit Kats and the Snickers, right? So I'm all about the candy bowl. But I would hang out in the lobby and I just ran into people that I've known for 10 years. And there was a big opportunity that came out of that for me, which is Plotter. I met Cameron Sutter through Kevin Tumlinson. You were there when that happened.
And we got to have him on the show.
Yep. And not this Saturday, but next Saturday, we're hosting a webinar because we've added the process that I put in Write Your First Nonfiction Book in Plotter. So Plotter now has that process in the app.
Right.
Which is very cool. So if I hadn't been at the conference and I hadn't been in the lobby hanging out at the candy bowl and just seeing old friends and meeting new friends, I would have missed that opportunity. And so that's the one thing that being an introvert can cost someone is I can stay here in the cabin in the woods and write, and I'll be just fine and happy. Thank you very much with my dogs and my cat. But I would have missed that opportunity.
Right.
It's important that we go back to what we talked about earlier, which is, why are you going to go to the conference? And so now when I go to a conference, it's really just to hang out in the lobby. I don't necessarily want to go to the sessions. Although when I go to these fiction conferences, I'm probably going to be in, how do I write a story? How do I write a scene? How do I write dialogue? Right. I'm totally new. I'm just learning all the things. And so I want to learn all the things.
Right.
But I also will just be hanging out and meeting people. And it's a small, small world. Everyone knows everyone, except everyone doesn't know everyone. So you're only 1 or 2 degrees of separation from anyone in the world. So we all know I'm 1 degree from King Charles and 1 degree from Snoop Dogg.
It's only 1 degree.
It's only 1 degree.
That's great.
That's fun. So you're very close one way or another to anyone that you want to know. And also what Michael said is, don't let your success inflate your ego, right?
Yeah.
Right. You never know who's got a pen. You never know who can go, wait a minute, hold on a second. Settle down. You're not that important. And I always say, that, and, now $7 gets me a Starbucks, right? They're like, oh, you're so whatever. And it's like, yeah, that and $7 got me a Starbucks drink that used to be $4. Anyway. So that's how I look at conferences is I now don't really want to travel unless it's on a private jet, and I don't have one. So Ali has them, but I don't
Ali
have
does.
them. Yes.
I don't know anyone but Ali that does.
Right. Perfect. But I also know that if I don't get out and go, I'm not going to meet really cool people that I'm going to be glad I got out and met. So I will go and I will sign up for something knowing that it's 10 months away. And I'm really glad it's 10 months away. And then when it's 10 minutes away, I get like, I don't know that I want to go, but I'll make myself go. And then I go and talk to the people that aren't talking to anyone, that are standing there wishing that they were feeling courageous enough or friendly enough to, not friendly enough, but I think what I've heard from some people is I would really go talk to people, but I don't know if they're friendly, and they seem to already know lots of people. So I don't want to intrude. I don't want to overstep. All that kind of stuff. So I'm always the person that's like, who's that guy in the corner? I'm going to go talk to him.
Right.
Or who's that person? And I've met some really cool people that way. And I also think that writing specifically, and this is different from, I said, the conferences and the advice I'm going to give is very usable everywhere. But specifically for writers, what we do is by ourselves. We're hanging out with our pen and our pad of paper, our notebook, our journal, or we're staring at a screen. And there's no one else who really understands it quite like another writer.
Right.
And no one else who will talk about word choices and nerd out on all of the things quite like someone else who's also got the same goal and the same desire to be a writer and to master their craft and to crack the code on book marketing and that kind of thing. And so in as much as I have very good friends who are wonderful and I love hanging out with them and we have a great time, like they do not want to ad nauseum talk about whether something is going to be in chapter 2 or in chapter 3 or what new book marketing thing that I've come up with or what book project I'm working on. Like they just kind of go, oh, great. Can we ask Honoree about books again? That's fantastic. so it's really helpful just to go make friends who have the same goals as you do and build a community in that way. And writers' conferences are the fastest way to get in relationship with people. You can do it online, but IRL is the best way.
Right. Yeah, I like your point about not like just talking about craft every time you run into somebody, because like it was kind of like I kind of made a promise to myself, like when I get there, if I run into someone that is someone I've never met before, and there's someone of a significant position in industry, I want to be very casual with them, but respectful, because I want them to be at ease and not to feel like I'm just pinning them down to ask them questions or talk to them about things.
Right.
Those people will naturally bring up topics related to you and your work if that's what they want to talk about. Otherwise, don't, I don't push that. So ironically, like Ronald Malfi has no idea what my book titles are after that conversation. We didn't talk about it. Right. We were in a circle of friends, just enjoying some late night beverages, and the host of the largest horror podcast probably in the world right now, Talking Scared, pulls up a chair. Now, I know of Neil. We've talked on social media, but we don't have like a in-person relationship. He's never interviewed me for his show or any of those things. Not yet. But he has interviewed 2 of my friends. And so he was comfortable coming and just pulling up a chair and saying, all right, what are we talking about? Like, what are we doing? And we all had a really good time.
That's how all of that happens.
Right. And we were just having a great not related to any of our work conversation.
That's right.
And it really kind of set him at ease to be able to just talk about something completely different. And he was probably looking for a little bit of an escape as well from having to talk about the same thing he probably gave two panels on already that day. So
people are so much cooler than others give them credit for sometimes, but also if you're looked at as an opportunity, that isn't right. I mean,
Yep. That's Byron not what you want to do.
Right. Byron and I have talked about how in Nashville, there's the Nashville nod. If you see someone who's famous, and a lot of famous people live here, if you make eye contact with them, you can just go, "What's up?" Right. But you don't go and go, "Oh my gosh," right? Because it's very disconcerting.
Yeah.
When someone is too overly continuously complimentary, it's like, now I have to live up to some imagined person
Yeah.
Right. And this is just in my own little microcosm. I've had it like a super little tiny bit, right? I can't imagine what it's like to be actually famous, but I have been around people that are ridiculously famous. I had a client who was so famous that people, like, we had 6 or 7 different people come up to our table during dinner and ask for autographs, and he was super gracious and all of that. But I can't imagine what that would be like for people to just constantly be like, I don't mean to interrupt while you're eating your stroganoff, but
while you're talking to someone
at dinner by yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So just if you can try to connect with someone on a personal level.
Right.
And sometimes I'll meet someone and I'll just go, I'm a fan. Right. And that's also something Michael just said, when you look up to someone, remember that they began somewhere too. And the difference between where they are and where you are is just time and intention and putting in the hours.
Right.
Yeah. Famous people are just people. Hi, Pops.
From Baltimore, Maryland.
Hello, Baltimore. Come in, Baltimore.
Yeah, he's doing some great work right now for the U.S. Coast Guard.
Nice. Thank you for your service.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, I think conferences are a great place to meet those people who you might not otherwise have the opportunity to meet.
Right.
And I like to send notes to people who have spoken at conferences and just thank them for putting together their presentation. And I get emails back. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's nice to receive.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I had one lady.
Do a little work.
Sure.
You have to do a little work. Like, what's their mailing address? How did that happen? And but every time I go to a conference of any kind,
look up their email address when you get back.
I just look up their email address. I look up their website. I look up their contact me page. I go to LinkedIn. I mean, you can basically find anyone if you're willing to put in enough time to find someone. And sometimes I just will send them an email and say, I'd like to send you something in the mail. What is your best mailing address?
Right.
So the last person I said that to was like, to England? And I was like, absolutely. Last I heard, they take mail over there.
It won't be a book.
I will send you a kidney. It's cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheaper than sending a book.
Yeah,
be a safe stalker.
Be a safe stalker. Yeah, just be nice. Just be nice. You never know. I've made some really great friends who happen to have done things in the world that you would know just because I was friendly and nice to them and didn't get crazy, didn't go fan person on them. And actually, I avoided the topic until I felt like there was an opportunity to have a conversation about it. Tell me about this or tell me about that. If you'd like, and if you don't want to, that's totally fine too. Ultimately, I'm looking to connect with really great people, regardless of how successful they are. Right. So
yeah, I mean,
there's that.
I brought a few books. I was with a friend. I was looking at this from the perspective, like you're saying, of just being immersed, recognizing other people.
Yep. How many people were there?
Oh my God, there were tons of people there. But
was it like a 400 person conference or 1,000 person conference?
It was 1,000 person conference.
Ooh, okay.
But I will say this. It is very popular. I mean, Phil convention, not a convention center, but like a conference center, a hotel type deal. Everyone is so nice to each other. And that is kind of I would say,
except
like one of the
in their books. That's what it is.
Well, they're nice to each
other. And then you go kill each other in your books. I see what's happening.
Horror. I hate this. I don't hate to say this. I love to say this. Horror people are some of the nicest people you ever meet. It is a very diverse group of people from all different areas, all different walks of life, but 9 times out of 10 or even better, everyone is just super cool to each other. And awesome. I think that if you're going to look at a conference, you need to really think about, like you were saying, who are you actually networking with? When I was at AuthorCon, someone came up to me and said, you have to talk to Megan Stockton. She's sitting right over there. She's going to have a conference this fall in Tennessee, Tennessee Book Readers Conference, TBR Con, right? It's a great name. And it's going to be in Knoxville, and she's great. You need to know her. So I went over and introduced myself and said, hey, anything I can do to help you with the conference? Because I knew it was her first time kicking it off. I'm willing to help you. Like, if you need help with anything, I'm not just going to come up and say, hey, can I get a table at your conference?
Right.
I'm like, hey, I would love to be there, but also, what can I help you with? Like, what can I do to help you get this conference to be the success you want it to be? Is there any way I can do that? And if there is, please don't hesitate to ask. I'd be willing to do some work to help elevate it. And the reason for that proposal is because I know that if the event is successful, everyone at the event becomes successful because of that, right? Like, this thing has to succeed in order for all of us to go, this was great. Not only was the event fantastic, but can't wait to do it again next year. Right? Those are like kind of like the two, right? Like a servant leadership, servant mindset. Great point, Michael. And I feel like if you can go into all these events thinking like that, like, I'm not just here to be wowed or to be impressed or to be whatever, to be successful financially off of book sales or whatever the case is. If you can go there with knowing that you can give and you can get an even measure, you're going to be just fine as long as you're in the right room with the right people. And I think that's really kind of the point. Like, so when we were asking about like, hey, how do you know where to go? And you and I were both saying, look at where the people you want to be around are going. That people you want to be around isn't just like, not just that they're famous or that they're successful, but that they're also the right kind of people for you to be interacting
they're good humans.
with.
They're gonna, they're gonna be people that you're gonna be real friends with. Yeah. I think that's awesome.
So are we missing anything?
I don't think so.
For today, I think that's all.
I don't think so. Did we miss anything, y'all? Have a question for us?
Anything we didn't cover?
If you are watching after the fact, you can leave your questions in the chat. You can like, love, and subscribe and share, and more good things are coming. Definitely in the future. And I would be remiss if we did not point you back to the empirebuildersmasterclass.com. Check out all of the courses we have. There are courses on writing, publishing, and monetizing your books, turning them into courses, building a six-figure mastermind, crafting your book, being successful, all of the different aspects of being an entrepreneur and more are coming all the time. So
in particular, the author success bundle, which we built last year as a combination of courses. Because we realized like this is like the A to Z for a creative entrepreneur that's building a business around their expertise.
And I think that is priced right now at $19.99. Isn't that right?
Yes.
For the three courses: publishing PhD, book marketing mastery, and building $1 million book business. Anything else to add to that, Lucas?
No. Do we
have a code? Do we have a code? I think we have a code.
Yes.
I think we decided that being nice is a good way to go. So we have a code that'll take $250 off of that bundle. But you got to hurry up and run over there and grab it.
Yeah. The code is NICE. NICE.
Yeah, all lowercase.
Yep. If you apply that to your card at checkout, you can save $250 on the author success bundle.
Yeah. So now you're saving $1,250 off of $3,000 worth of courses. So yeah.
Love that bundle. And the cool part about this bundle is that you get the publishing PhD course, the book marketing mastery course, and the building $1 million book business courses, like all of that together. So you just enroll one time and you're in.
Yep. So. And you get to come, it's all self-paced, blended learning. And I have a live Q&A 12 times a year. And the one this month is next Tuesday. It's the second Tuesday of every month from 1 to 3 Central US time. And people come from all over the world to ask questions and get answers.
That's how we ended up here.
Yes, that's exactly how we ended up here. So I was like, I like that guy. He's nice.
Yeah, I was like, you're Honoree Quarter. You're the person I bought all these books and courses from.
Who did you think was coming?
I don't know. For some reason in my brain, I wasn't thinking you were going to be the person I was meeting at the...
That's so funny. I hear that. It's actually you. You're doing it. It's really actually me that's doing it. Yes.
And you were like, you measured up to the book because I didn't know you. So when I read your book, I was, in your mind as a reader, you kind of have this voice and you have this perspective that you gain. through the reading of,
Mhm.
you're getting to know the author and they have no idea, that this
Right.
experience, what that's like for you as the
Yeah.
reader. And then I met you in the publishing PhD live
Yeah.
Q&A. So
Yeah. So funny. That's so funny.
awesome. All those years
Yeah.
ago.
Oh my gosh, here we are.
We were just little tykes.
We were, but did you vend?
And now we're vending.
And now we're vending. Yes, we are. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, everyone. Please do leave your comments. Thank you so much. Say hi to Frappuccino. She couldn't wait 30 more
Hey,
seconds.
Frappuccino.
Yeah.
It's like, Honoree has a tail.
I,
It's like, boop, just popped right up on the
you
chair.
don't know.
All right,
You don't
guys.
know.
We'll see you next week, Thursday, live.
Yes, we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Lucas.
Take it easy.
Bye.